Here are the top stories for today, May 26, 2022. Economic recovery in the Philippines will be the topmost priority of the incoming Marcos leadership. President-elect Ferdinand Marcos Jr. vows to fight corruption amid controversies in the Bureau of Customs. The Department of Health announces a four-door strategy to prevent the spread of monkeypox in the country. And free rides at the MRT-3 are extended until June 30. Good day, I am Stephanie Civiliano. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Recovery from the economic impacts of the coronavirus pandemic, global crude hikes, and international conflicts affecting trade will be the topmost priority of the incoming administration under Ferdinand Marcos Jr. leadership. The president-elect said this will be efficiently achieved through streamlining government processes, but this will only be feasible through digitization and information technology communication. Meanwhile, he assured that the micro, small, and medium enterprises will not be left behind. He then underscored the need for him to come up with a strategic economic team.
The first priority is always going to be the economy. And that's why we have been very, very careful in choosing the economic team. It's still down to jobs, to the increasing prices of commodities, some relief for the business community.
No place for corruption. President-elect Ferdinand Marcos Jr. made this statement as he vows to dig deep into corruption allegations over the Bureau of Customs. Marcos said he's willing to replace personal performing misconduct, which he described as an endemic practice. However, he said he's hoping not to go as far as ordering just a 15-30 last compensation before termination. The incoming president meanwhile said he will forget what has been done in the past, where he was not on the official watch.
I hope we do not have to do what then Prime Minister Mahathir did, where he said, sige, mag-15-30 lang kayo kasi may tenure sila. Mag-15-30 lang kayo, huwag kayong papasok, pagtangko kayong lahat. I hope we don't have to go that far. Ngayon ako na namamahala, so wala nang ganyan. At kung meron pang ganyan, habul-habulin talaga namin kayo. At hindi po pwede yan because we will not succeed. The government, the economy in the Philippines will simply not succeed if we cannot collect duties, tariffs, etc. Through the Bureau of Customs.
President-elect Ferdinand Marcos Jr. named today additional members of his administration's cabinet. The president-elect announced that Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Governor Benjamin Jokno will be the chief of the Department of Finance under his administration. Jokno was recognized last January as the world's top central banker of the year 2022 by The Banker, an internationally monthly magazine owned by the Financial Times. Marcos also said former University of the Philippines President Alfredo Pascual will be the next trade secretary. Pascual is currently the president of the Management Association of the Philippines. Meanwhile, SMC Tollways CEO Manny Bonoan will head the Department of Public Works and Highways. Earlier, Marcos named Philippine Competition Commission Chair Arsenio Balisacan as head of the National Economic and Development Authority, his former post under President Benigno Aquino III. Vice President-elect Sara Duterte will head the Department of Education. Former Metropolitan Manila Development Authority Chair Benhur Abalos will be the next Interior Secretary. Susan Ople will head the Department of Migrant Workers, while Trixie Cruz Angeles will be Chief of the Presidential Communications Operations Office. Bienvenido Laguesma was also named as Labor Secretary. Malacanang congratulates President-elect Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and Vice President-elect Sara Duterte following their proclamation. Acting Presidential Spokesperson and Communications Secretary Martin Andanel said the Congress proclamation ceremony indicates a beacon of democracy in the country, and that reiterated his call for the public to support the newly proclaimed leaders. He also assured that the office of the outgoing President Rodrigo Duterte will ensure a peaceful, orderly, and smooth transfer of powers, and will extend all the support and assistance to various transition activities. Marcos will be inaugurated on June 30, while Sara is on the June 19 in Davao City. The Congress proclaimed former Senator Marcos and Duterte following the fastest canvassing in the country's election history. 55 party list groups have been proclaimed by the Commission on Elections this afternoon. At CIS topped the list, followed by one rider party list, Tingok, 4-piece, Ako Bicol, Sagip, Ang Provinciano, Uswag Ilonggo, Tutok Tuwin, Sibak, Senior Citizens, Duterte Youth, Agimat Kabataan, Angat, Marino, Ako Bisaya, Provinciano Ako, LPGMA, API, Gabriela, CWS, Agri, P3PWD, Ako, Ilocano Ako, Kusog Tausug, Anwaray, Kalinga, Agap, Coop, Natco, Malasakit at Bayanihan, BHW, GP Party, BH, ACT Teachers, TGP, Bicol Saro, Dumper PTDA, Pinuno, Abang Lingkod, PBA, OFW, Abono, Anak Kalusugan, Kabayan, Magsasaka, One Pacman, APEC, Pusong Pinoy, TUCP, Patrol, Manila Teachers, Ambis OWA, Philreca, and Alona. The proclamation pushed through despite some party lists having pending cases, and despite petitions to abandon the so-called bandit formula that prevent groups who made it to the top 63 from being declared winners if they have pending disqualification cases. More than 2,000 electoral boards who served at extended hours in the May 9 polls may start receiving additional 2,000 pesos tomorrow. Commissioner George Garcia said the release of the extra honoraria was approved by the Commission and Bank.
Nakita ko na sumulat ang aming Executive Director, Director Bart Sino Cruz, kay Mr. Benjo Basas. Sumulat siya, sinabi niya, approve na yung 2,000 pesos at in fact anytime i-release na yon kasi nga una umikot yung resolution patungkol doon. Number 2, inalam kasi mula sa aming CEMAC sa Operation Center ilan talaga yung eksakto nagka-problema pagkatapos yung mga names ng mga, siyempre kailangan yun sa accounting at saka sa audit, yung mga names ng mga electoral boards. So ako naniniwala ako na kahit hanggang Friday pwede naman yun na ma-distribute na natin. Ang importante yon, wala na tayong problema, approve na yon. Humingi lang kami ng dispensa sapagkat yung DepEd, si Secretary Liling Briones ay nag-request sa amin na baka pwedeng 3,000 pesos. Pero pasensya na po talaga sa ating mga guro, sa ating mga support staff, sa ating pong mga technician, doon sa mga nasira at nagka-problema yung machine at SD cards, talagang hanggang 2,000 pesos lang po ang kaya't maipagkaloob sa inyo sapagkat alam niyo naman po wala kaming additional na pondo. Yung po yung pinampalit namin na dapat ay hinihingi nila ng overtime pay. Again, uulitin ko po para lang sa kaalaman ng lahat, hindi po kasi pwede magbayad ng overtime pay ang Commission on Election sa mga guro natin, electoral boards, kasi hindi po sila empleyado ng Commission on Election. Gustuhin man po namin, bawal po sa auditing rules at saka sa DBM circular.
Still ahead, the Department of Health announces a 4-door strategy to prevent the spread of monkeypox in the country. The Energy Department says the country needs a new legal framework to allow for the investment in a nuclear power plant. We'll be back after a quick break. Keep it here on the PNA Newsroom.
Pakiramdam ay hindi maganda.
The Department of Health will implement the four-door strategy to prevent the entry of monkeypox into the country. DOH Technical Advisory Group member Dr. Edsel Salvañez said the strategy would involve prevent, detect, isolate, treat, and reintegrate or PDITR approach. He said it would start with border control followed by the other measures such as testing, contact tracing, wearing of masks, and vaccination.
Tuloy naman po talaga yung ating surveillance at yung ginagawa natin ngayon na nakamask tayo lahat, actually mabisa rin yan to prevent monkeypox. And it doesn't spread as fast, mas madali siyang i-contact trace, and yun nga, it's not deadly. Bagamat ngayon wala pa naman tayong stockpiles ng vaccines, meron naman tayong contacts with the United States Centers for Disease Control and other agencies na kung kakailanganin natin ng tulong para sa pag-procure nito, may linkages naman po yung ating gobyerno.
The establishment of the Bilateral Consultation mechanism on the West Philippine Sea is said to be among the legacies of the Duterte administration. President of the Philippine Association for Chinese Studies, Romel Malawi, said the bilateral consultation served as a platform to reduce misunderstanding on issues concerning the West Philippine Sea. The bilateral consultation mechanism was created in 2016 following the state visit of President Rodrigo Duterte to China in 2017. Malawi said it's really important to avoid provocative unilateral actions by all parties in order to sustain the gains of bilateral maritime cooperation. He said a relative calm brought by the BCM has contributed to the fruitful negotiations on the Code of Conduct and the implementation of the Declaration of Conduct on the West Philippine Sea. President Rodrigo Duterte received the credentials of 4 new diplomats assigned in the Philippines and expressed their intention to improve ties between the respective countries. Duterte met the ambassadors from the Kingdom of Cambodia, Republic of Indonesia, Argentine Republic, and the Hellenic Republic in ceremony at Malacanang Palace. Duterte said Cambodia can count on the Philippines' support and cooperation on its ASEAN chairmanship this year. Moreover, he described Indonesia as among the country's closest friends and regional partners. Meanwhile, the chief executive noted that the Philippines look forward to increasing cooperation within the framework of the Philippine-Argentina Agreement on Technical Cooperation. Finally, he thanked Greece for the hospitality extended to Filipinos and their continued support to the Filipino seafarers. The Department of Energy said there is a need to amend the Electric Power Industry Reform Act, or PERA law, to enable the government to invest in nuclear power plants. This as the incoming administration is considering a nuclear power plant to be part of the country's energy mix. Undersecretary Gerardo Urquiza Jr. said the National Power Corporation does not have a mandate on the establishment of a nuclear power plant due to the privatization of the power sector under the PERA. With the drafting of a regulatory framework, the government can become among those that can fund a nuclear power plant. Urquiza said the Bataan nuclear power plant can still be rehabilitated according to the studies made by the Korean Hydronuclear Power Company and Russia. Urquiza added that the government can invest in power generation using small modular reactors in missionary areas that are not connected to the grid. More stories from the newsroom. Marawi City kicks off this year's celebration of Peace Week. Free rides at the MRT3 are extended until June 30. Details ahead, stay with the PNA Newsroom.
Hi everyone, James Deacon here. The COVID-19 vaccines are finally here, and the government wants to make sure the vaccines reach us. So let's do our part by making sure that we get registered to be included in the vaccination list of our LGU. You can register right in the comfort and safety of your own homes through your LGU's online registration platform. You can also register on-site in the vaccination venues or through your barangay. Remember, getting vaccinated is the first step towards ending this pandemic. So let's do our part as disciplined citizens. Bida ang may disiplina. Magpakarehistro at magpabakuna para sa ligtas na pamilya, ligtas na bayan.
Marawi City celebrating Peace Week with a trade fair and expo that allows them to showcase the fruits of the people's efforts for development and recovery. More on this from Claire Gighe.
The Task Force Bangon Marawi or TFBM, together with its development partners and the City of Marawi, kicked off a week-long commemoration of Marawi Week of Peace with a trade fair and expo showcasing the products of local micro, small and medium enterprises or MSMEs. More than 30 MSMEs assisted by TFBM's implementing agencies and development partners participated in the trade fair. Among the products sold were hand-woven products, garments, agri-products, food items, and Maranao handicrafts and delicacies. Department of Trade and Industry Special Concerns Undersecretary Amina Fajardo said the trade fair seeks to promote and give exposure to local products.
By showcasing these Maranao products through trade fairs such as this, we can show to the other regions in the Philippines and to the global market as well that we are at least at par with other growing industries.
The conduct of a trade fair is a regular activity of the TFBM Subcommittee on Business and Livelihood to provide marketing platforms to MSMEs and IDP-led enterprises. This year's trade fair has expanded as it included exhibitors from the Bangon Marawi Chamber of Commerce and Industry.
We established the Marawi Cookies to inculcate or in the minds and the hearts of our fellow Marawians na pagka may peace ay may development.
We hope to rebuild Marawi City through the livelihood and business because this is the backbone of the economy. We cannot accommodate them all in the government, but we have to make it a point that businesses comes back because this will bring sustainability to the economy.
Meanwhile, City Mayor Mahulgan Damra underscored that the trade fair is not only a display of peace and resilience within and among the people of Marawi, but also a manifestation that although slowly, Marawi is rising again and its people are getting back on their own feet. To culminate the Marawi Week of Peace Trade Fair and Expo, a Kawiyagan event was held wherein various livelihood packages were distributed by development partners to IDPs. For PNA Newsroom, Claire Gighe of the Philippine Information Agency Lanao del Sur.
A total of 729 persons have returned to their homes since the COVID-19 pandemic hit the country in 2020. Thanks to the Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa or BP2 program. Norlin Emphasis, a beneficiary from Sarangani, South Cotabato, said the BP2 program did not only provide her an opportunity to start anew in the province but also the chance to be with her sick mother. She said, aside from not spending a single centavo for the requirements, they also got livelihood assistance from the government. President Rodrigo Duterte signed Executive Order Number 114, which institutionalized the BP2 program to address overcrowding in Metro Manila. The BP2 program will facilitate another batch of the beneficiaries set to return to provinces of Lanao, Del Norte, Misamis Oriental, and Iligan City by next week. In sports, Samahang Basketball ng Pilipinas President Al Panlilio apologized to the Gilas Pilipinas fans for the performance of the national basketball teams in the recent Southeast Asian Games in Hanoi, Vietnam. In a statement, Panlilia said the SPP will take full responsibility for the results of the basketball team's blown campaign. He promised that the Philippines will reclaim the top spot in basketball. The men's team dropped to silver after a shocking loss to Indonesia in the virtual men's 5x5 basketball gold medal match on Sunday. The women's team remains the defending 5x5 champion, despite falling short against Malaysia in their final game also on Sunday. Gilas also failed to defend their championship in 3x3 with the men's team, settled for the bronze, with the women's team completely missing out on the podium. Cushioning further the increasing fuel prices, riders may still avail of the free Metro Rail Transit 3 rides until June 30. This as the management extends the program until the last day of the Duterte administration. Transportation Secretary Artagadi said the government aims to let more Filipinos enjoy the much improved and newly rehabilitated MRT-3 for free. It has been running since March 28 as President Rodrigo Duterte himself declared the free MRT-3 ride in celebration of the significant improvement of the MRT's services. The free ride was originally slated only until May 30. Over 15 million commuters have been benefited from the free MRT-3 ride thus far. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. Economic recovery in the Philippines will be the topmost priority of the incoming Marcos leadership. President-elect Ferdinand Marcos Jr. vows to fight corruption amid controversies in the Bureau of Customs. The Department of Health announces a 4-door strategy to prevent the spread of monkeypox in the country. And free rides at the MRT-3 are extended until June 30. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear face masks, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We're shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on the television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. We tell you stories that inspire change. I'm Stephanie Civiliano. Good day.